I want to get a reaction shot when you text this.
Okay, all right. It's 1800. What is it called?
1800 Cristalano.
Okay, I'll try it.
So
I love all things tequila for real.
Hey,
all things.
This
tequila.
made me a believer.
Okay. Damn.
Hey. It's good, ain't it? It's good.
Yeah. It's like nothing. Like
it's
water.
so smooth. It's so smooth, man.
Okay.
And the thing is, like, I get in trouble because it is so smooth. I'll drink it like water, then it'll hit you. We're testing out this podcast concept. We're just shooting shit, right? So, and what's funny, because a lot of times when I do these things, they're so heavily scripted.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to the point where not only do y'all like agree on the questions beforehand, but it's like, well, what are you gonna say here? I've done so many panels and all of that where it's scripted. So it's nice to actually have a conversation, like a real conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what we're gonna talk about, but we're friends though, and this is what we do.
Yeah, we already know each other.
Exactly. Yeah. Like we get together all the time and we just kick it, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, man. So the first thing, let's introduce ourselves. So I'm, Jeff Nelson. I do a lot of things, but most prominently known as the co-founder and chief technology officer of Blavity.
Yeah.
And I do a bunch of other shit that I'm not going to get into. But who are you, my friend? Tell us what you do.
I'm just a guy that went to high school with you.
Right. Please, man. I'm like, I know he was. I'm one of the day ones, man.
No, I've just been in healthcare for a while now. So I guess it's been like 6 years now, and home health and hospice. Originally started in Atlanta. So Atlanta, and then we got into Chicago. Now we're in Atlanta, Chicago, and Indiana. So, I mean, without the pandemic, we probably would be in a lot more places. But, three is good.
Three hospices.
Good. Yeah, it's good for 33.
Funny story. So we went to high school together.
Yep.
And we went to Morgan Park, Southside of Chicago. And we randomly reconnected in Atlanta at Chipotle.
At a Chipotle,
right? And this was 2015, I'm assuming.
I always lose track of that because it seems like it was a long time ago.
Time flies. But I moved here in 2014, right? So you went to Morehouse. Yeah. So you've been in Atlanta for a while now. I mean,
straight after high school.
So you pretty much you were an AT alien.
Damn! Don't say that. Don't say that.
In a city of transplants, you are as authentic as anybody else I've seen. Right?
That's fair.
And funny story. And so when we reconnected, you catch up and I know you. Yeah, what you up to? And you told me you were in a hospice.
Yeah.
And I ain't gonna lie, I thought he was full of shit at first. And it's nothing personal. But a lot of times when you meet people and they say on the CEO on running something, 100%. a lot of times, I'm gonna be nice, they're manifesting it, right? This is just a manifestation. It's not real. Like, I could start a business right now. I'm the CEO of such and such, especially in tech.
Absolutely.
It's really easy to be like, and everybody's hustling. And again, I'm not trying to disparage anybody's dreams of the duo. He's the asshole, not me. But it's real easy for people to be like, I'm running this, I'm running that, right? And that's cool and all. But when he told me, I run a hospice, I was like, he might be the director of marketing at the hospice, right? But he run a hospice. But then I looked him up. I was like, oh shit, this dude is like, not only it wasn't like your parents' hospice that they just gave to like you.
I wish
that's what shocked me because I was I mean, sometimes people be hating, sometimes. So the hater in me was like, all right, maybe they just like named him the CEO, but he didn't start it, right? Then I looked up, I was like, no, he built this. Yeah, and your story for doing it is amazing, man. Talk a little bit about it.
It pales in comparison to Blavity.
Hey, man, look, man, this is the Henry Mason show.
And it's funny you say that because I didn't really know Blavity. I didn't know what it was, right? Mm-hmm. And so I don't even know if it came up for a while, right?
Right,
And then for whatever reason, it came up because you were talking to me about Afrotech. And I was like, you want to go? I was like, I go to your little conference, man.
Your little event.
I'll come through. Like, Harry, I got some tickets. You want to go to my
event? You want me to bring some chips and some drinks?
I got a little event. And then you said the tickets was at like $1,500. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. What am I going to? He's like, yeah, I don't know. When was it? San Francisco or something?
This is back when it was in San Francisco.
It was in San Fran. So I'm like, all right, I'll go. And then so I ended up going. I'm like, yo, this ain't no little event.
Yeah,
this
man.
is a big goddamn on deal.
Yeah,
like,
I think that was that wasn't even the biggest one we had. I mean, that was
crazy.
Yeah. And I think for both of us, why I started with that story is because we both come from the Southside of Chicago.
Same high school.
Same
concept, yeah.
You don't see people who are like us where they come from that circumstance and they run companies, like real companies. And I was so impressed with you because in tech, it's easy to be like, yo, I started a company, but in healthcare, like a hospice, you can't fake that. Yeah, you cannot fake that.
It's still tough, right? Like I think even now, like I was talking to my mom today because I want to do more expansion, and my mom kind of, because she did work for a hospice before, she didn't own that one, but she worked for one. So when I kind of came on, when she was going through cancer and like let's start whatever, right? So we started on.
Tequila hit me wrong.
It shouldn't hit you wrong, man. That should be top of the line. Well, it should be good.
No, I drank it like it was water.
Oh, yeah.
So that was my bad. That was my bad. But I didn't want to cough, in the middle of your story. Go ahead.
No, it's cool. But it's still like even now, like when you want to do stuff when it's like you're reminded that like your competition is real competition. Like it's not like you have just a small boutique store and there's a small boutique store down the street and you all both are like, running on, $300,000 budgets and trying to figure it out. It's like, nah, like even if your budget is, let's just say it's 10 million, this budget over here that you're competing against, it can be $1 billion budget because they're backed by private equity firm A who backs them, and the other one across the street from you too that you don't even know that it's like, damn, it's the same thing. So you get that, like that's a real thing that you get quickly, like right away. So every time you want to expand, you're reminded, like
you didn't study, you weren't pre-med.
No.
In college, right? What did you study?
Finance. Business finance. But I don't know. I feel like school kind of teaches you how to like, and I don't know what you think about this, but, and this might not be like the most popular thing, but school kind of sets you up, right? So it's not like prison by any means, just like a common theme that I hear, but it puts you in a space where these are the rules, right? You follow these rules. Test is due on Friday. Your homework is due on Tuesday. Like these are the rules. Follow these rules. And that's kind of, in my opinion, setting you up to like be like this person who works his job, who's like in this space.
Right.
And you're kind of like stuck in that space. And then you can go up like over time. But I don't know if school teaches you how to like maneuver like entrepreneurship. Like my school didn't really do that.
Have you ever had a real job?
Oof.
Real job, right?
I worked at Finish Line at Evergreen Plaza.
This is in high school, though.
Yeah,
I'm talking about after college. Though.
No.
So you after college, you jumped right into,
which I don't suggest anyone do.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that because I always give the advice like work for other people first.
As long as you don't get comfortable, right?
Okay.
Like even now, I notice. Whereas like if you want certain things, like you might wait a second, but it's because you're so used to like you don't know like when is this next thing gonna come. Like even now it's consistent for me, right?
Yeah.
I'm still kind of like in the mindset of like just 3 years ago it was kind of inconsistent. So now it's like even in scaling and expanding, if there's no like backer behind you and you're funding all of it, you're still very cautious of like how you expand and how you spend your money and how you hire. Like all of that is like.
So you didn't work for anybody else after college. You didn't have big private equity, VC money.
Zero.
Backing you.
Zero.
So were you learning this on the fly? I mean, not only learning this industry, highly regulated industry.
Yeah.
But also, this is not a one-man show. You have a company, you have a staff
now
full of people now, right?
Yeah.
But how did you, I guess, like talk to me about how that process of the management side of entrepreneurship, like how did you learn that part of it?
I still don't think I learned it. Like I still, you know what I mean? I think like there's this space where it's like you're kind of figuring out as you go. And it's like, okay, if this is where we budget out for the year, come like October for us, right? So that's when we kind of like look for next year. And I'm like, all right, man, we've got this much money in the bank. I can find someone to take this off of my plate.
Mm.
and this up on my plate. And as long as I can project that out for a 6 to 9 or 12 month run rate, to me, that's enough because I know we're going to get paid every month, right? So as long as that salary is covered, I'm feel comfortable doing that. So it's like I'm still figuring it out. Like it's nothing.
But that business background helps,
so
right?
And that's where I think is a little bit different. So like my background is a little different. So if you're from Chicago, 83rd and Damon is where I went to elementary school, church. My grandparents started that school, church, right? So that thing, right, that business acumen was there. My uncles had businesses. So even though they weren't like directly involved with what I was doing, I think there's still this like thing of me watching every day that grind and that hustle, like you kind of figured it out.
So you saw those examples in your family.
Yeah.
Right, which is interesting because if I think back, I never had any entrepreneurs that had successful businesses in my family, but my dad was a hustler. I mean, he worked for AT&T. He was a telephone repairman for like 30 years.
So he's in tech?
He's literally climbing up telephone poles.
That's dangerous, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's dangerous, right? And God rest his soul. I mean, but he was a hustler though. And I remember when I was younger, like he would like his job, he hated his job, but he had to provide for his family, right?
Right.
And but he always had a creative and entrepreneurial mind where he would build computers. He introduced me to computers when I was younger. He literally, this is back in the late 80s and early 90s where, he's actually he taught me about, this is the motherboard and here's RAM and here's how you put this together, like actually building computers. And he would do things like he used to like bake bootleg CDs and sell them to people. Like
in the 90s?
And in the 90s, man. Like
shout out to Hot Rod too, man.
Hey, straight up, right? Like shout out to the OGs, right? But this is like he had all the equipment where he had a whole system where he was burning like new CD would come out. He was burning like he could make like 60 copies of the CD an hour. Like he had a whole system.
Jesus.
Right. And it's as you were telling your story, I originally thought like, well, I didn't have those examples of entrepreneurship.
But you did.
But I did.
You did,
right.
Yeah.
And I think one lesson that I hope that people who are, from in Chicago now, who are growing up and have grown up in the same neighborhoods that we did, take from this is that entrepreneurship is around you. Like hustling is people talk about entrepreneurship and Black people not being represented in those spaces, but we just have a different word for it. We call it hustling, and that's in our DNA.
It's also the barrier to entry too, right? Like if you want to get into tech and someone say, oh, I want to start like a Blavity, and they eventually, they go online, go on Google and they're like, oh my God, they raise X millions amount of dollars. And then, so that instantly cuts them off in their mind, like, how the hell am I going to do that? Right. Yeah. So I think that's huge. So I think there is a space to, like, there's this thing where you kind of work your way up. Like, I think that's a big thing that I see with younger kids too. When I mentor little kids or smaller kids or high school kids, they're always telling me like these big dreams, but there's no steps. There's no progression. It's like, I just want to come out making 10 million. I'm like, yeah, that's not how it works.
Everybody want to return the kickoff for a touchdown.
That's not how it's not crypto, bro. That's not how it works.
You, I think, started your entrepreneurial journey in a staple industry.
Yeah.
People are always going to need the type of service and the business that you provide.
It'll last forever. Yeah.
It'll last forever.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to start a hospital?
So I actually think there's more luck to it than people are willing to admit.
Okay.
Right. Like, and everyone has their own opinion about it, but and the luck begins well before like me going into this industry, right? Like I was lucky enough to be born into this family that was full of entrepreneurs that taught me stuff, even though they didn't realize they were teaching me stuff.
Yeah.
You were lucky enough to be like us being in, like you, not us, you being in tech. People would be like, oh, that's normal now. That wasn't really normal 20 years ago. It wasn't really normal 15 years ago, right? You would have been an anomaly, right? Even now, I would still say you're an anomaly, though, honestly. So, like, then it was like, that's an element of luck that I think we have to kind of account for. Yeah. That I think other people need to understand. Like, don't think you're going to wake up and be this person. Like, this is generation stuff type kind of passed down. So I think that's a part of it. But no, man, I was just broke. Yeah. Like dead ass. Like I was just broke. And then I got lucky because I went into, my mom called me when she was working for this other hospice. She called me. She's like, I need a nurse, right? And I was like, all right, cool. I'll call you back. So I get on Craigslist and I send her like 3 nurses, right? She texted people. She was like, oh my God, we couldn't find her for 3 weeks. This is great. She's like, you know what this is? I was like, no, what are you talking about? I just sent the nurses. So she calls me back and she's like, this is recruiting. Like, we pay people for this. And this is where the recruitment thing came from. So you're talking about zero money, nothing, right? I'll tell you how I started. Anybody can start this with $500, maybe 300, right?
He's giving y'all game.
This is for real. This is for real. And I'm gonna tell you the numbers too, so you know I'm for real. I wish I might go look. I might even show y'all because I feel like that's important, right? So like she called me. She gave me these 3. I gave her these 3 nurses, and she's like, yeah, talk to my boss, whoever her boss was at the time. So I called this guy. He's like, yeah, we definitely need these nurses because we don't have none. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, we sent you these 3. He's like, what do you charge? I was like, I'll call you right back. I didn't even know to think about what I would charge, right? So I called other recruitment firms. I Googled other recruitment firms, called them. They sent me their contracts.
Hustling.
I basically broke those down.
Right.
Sent them back to this guy. I was like, oh, I charge 15%. He's like, cool, we'll take 2 right now and we'll, 1 later. So they took 2. I went from like negative like $2,500 in a month. I think it was like $24,000 or $26,000. And it's just like the craziest industry. I think it literally cost me $25 to post on Craigslist in like 2 days of time.
But that's amazing. And it relates to what you were just saying, where now so many people are trying to hit the home run.
Yeah.
I think, my company, Blavity, we produce Afrotech, and maybe we're part of the problem that I'm about to establish. But I think part of the problem is that a lot of people see the covers. They see what's in Afrotech. They see in TechCrunch. They see so-and-so raised, X million dollars. And they think that the journey is idea to raise money. So I'm getting all this publicity. So now I'm just like, I'm the boss and all of this. And there's so much more to it, right? I remember in the early days of us starting Blavity, the first iteration of Blavity that we started was actually, we were aggregating YouTube videos, content by Black creators. People are putting it on YouTube, they're putting it on social media, but one, there's a problem with people discovering that, right? Black people don't know that content is out there. There's no Netflix for Black creators, right? And then 2, those creators, they don't have a defined place where they can go and say, I'm going to put my content in a place where it's going to be appreciated by a community that values me and values my work, and I can monetize it, right? So the very first idea we had was building Netflix for Black videos. And we started, the MVP of that was, we were going to scrape all the Black videos on YouTube, categorize them, and build a site where people could consume their content.
It's still a good idea, by the way.
It was ambitious. And I'm glad you said that it was ambitious. We were trying to hit the home run first. And to Morgan's credit, right, as we were building this, she was like, this was 2014, right? She was like, maybe this is it. This is the thing, but we're not there yet. And we pivoted, right? And it's only now in 2021 where we just launched Blavity TV. We just, like, literally weeks ago. You can go download it now on Roku, iOS, Android. Will be coming to Samsung. Blavity TV, we now have a television app where we are putting Black video content and allowing people, what we were trying to do in 2014. Except now we're not scraping YouTube. Now we're creating the content, right? Now we're going to creators and saying like, hey, come put this. But that just goes to show you where, and that's why I give so much credit to Morgan, because a lot of entrepreneurs, the thing about entrepreneurship is that you see a world that doesn't exist. Right? And you're trying to create that world. And often I see so many founders stumble because the reason, if that world were easy to create, it would exist. Somebody would have already created it, right? So as an entrepreneur, you're ahead of your time. You're oftentimes 5, sometimes 10 years ahead of your time, right? And it's very easy to get frustrated and be like, yo, I want to do, this is my vision, and I'm not gonna launch, or I'm not gonna go to market, or I'm not gonna get customers until this thing is exactly how I want it to be. And that's how so many people fail. And so it's interesting in your case, you sort of had this kind of personal incremental step where you started with the recruiting space. Because when I met you, you were doing recruiting and you were getting into the hospice space, but it was like recruiting You were trying to find a nurse, right? You realized that, oh, okay, I could actually build a company to solve the immediate problem if I'm broke right now.
Right.
And then you kind of parlayed that into this whole business of providing consistent healthcare services in the form of hospice care.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because I think it's like not cool, right? Like it's not the cool thing to do to be in healthcare, right? Because like even now I'm like, man, I gotta find something cool to do, you know, because it's like I want to be relatable, and I'm kind of losing that. Like I'm 30.
You think so?
Yeah, at 33 now, like you're losing it.
You go to the club and tell people, yeah, man, you know, like I own the hospice, and it's not hitting the way you want it to. I go to the club like, yeah, you know, Afro Tech.
Yes,
I can get you tickets, dog. Dead ass. We had an Afro Tech happy hour in Chicago the other week. Yeah. And I just flew in for the night, and I played that card. I was like, "You want tickets to this conference?" I was giving out all the Afro Tech tickets. You use this code. Open your phone right now. Here's the promo code right now.
Yo, and it's for real, like it's crazy. Right, I'm yearning for like this cool thing to do, right? Like so now I'm like trying to figure out, like, do I go back towards the NFTs? Like, what do I do to kind of create this space that's like cool to be in? And so I was talking to a mentor of mine the other day, and he was like, "Nah, like build your business up, sell it if that's an option for you, or if it's a lifestyle business and continue to grow it out as a lifestyle business, and then take that, put some money in place, and then go do something cool."
What's interesting about you to me, you know, because you always mention this when we talk, is this desire to give back. And you know, you never, most people who have that desire, they were the beneficiary of somebody intentionally. And I know you had examples in your family, but your journey in entrepreneurship was very much so like you had to connect dots yourself. You didn't have a lot of people who were like, hey, let me take you under my wing and or let me give you this thing. So what is behind that desire for you to give back? Because you mentioned philanthropy many different times, and I'm curious where that comes from.
So I think a big part of it is just Chicago was a big part of it. So from what I would say there is, I would always argue I have a lot of help, right? And I think people look at help like monetary help versus like advice and guidance. Like I think that's bigger than money. Because making money, I think, is the easiest part of it all. And if people will disagree with me, whatever about it, right? But that's the easiest part. It's like, what do you do? How do you function? What kind of person are you? Like, when I think about Chicago and I look at people that I went to school with, and I'm like, yo, it's just like tough. And I can empathize with them because, like, yo, it really is tough. Like, it's not like they're not trying. They are trying. But it's like hurdle after hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. It's like they can't break out of this little system. So for me, it's like figuring out where I can't necessarily invest in every one of their ideas. Yeah. Well, I guess you could technically, but most of them are not ideas that you would normally invest in, right? They're not scalable. They're not like, you know, but for me, it's just like, how can I figure out like, if I and this is my belief, you talked about it before, I don't believe that there's not this element of luck to it. I think you were lucky enough to have a dad who was in tech. Right. I was lucky enough to have an uncles and a granddad and a mom who like loved entrepreneurship and like kind of put that into me. And everyone doesn't have that. Right. So they won't get it in this generation. And I think that's what a lot of people have to come to grips with. Like, I think that's what we miss out on a lot of times too, right? It's like, well, I want to do it now. And it's like, you can't. Not that you can't, but it's not going to be as simple as you think. A lot of the people that are like, I read Warren Buffett's story the other day, and I was like, you know, he actually doesn't talk about, he doesn't actually come from a broke family. Or the idea that he was heavily involved in stocks as a child, right? That's insane. Because you're talking about in the 40s. That's insane. There's no internet, right? Someone had to hand you something that said, this is what this is. So you think about that, like, that's luck. Like, you were lucky enough to be born into this family. I look at these people's stories. I look at Jeff Bezos' stories, and I'm like, someone gave him $250,000 in 1999. Yeah. Did your parents have $250,000 in 1999? My parents ain't got $250,000 right now. I ain't never had $250,000. Like, he was lucky enough to be born into that space, right? So it's like, I think we have to really take that into account. And I think we have to do more of setting up our kids. So it's like, yeah, you could spend your whole life like, I'm going to go out and figure this out. And I'm like, don't do that. Like, figure out how to set up your kids. Like, and I think that's where the giving back thing comes to me, because like, I think that's what my parents did and my grandparents did. They set it up to where I can be like this thing that flourishes, even if it was on accident, right? I can be the thing that flourishes. And I think if I can help you set up your kids, then we're getting further along. And I think that's where it kind of like,
I think, that's one of the reasons why I really admire you, but also why we get along so well is oftentimes you sometimes meet people who look like you, maybe from the same place, but they have this attitude, this elitist attitude.
It's insane to me. Oh my God, that's drives me crazy.
And it's like in seeing you, it's just that humility, which one I can respect, but two, like I share that sentiment. And if anybody ever is like, hey, like how'd you do it? And I often struggle with this question when I get it when people are like, hey, tell me how to be like you. What did you do? Because so much of it is luck.
It's not me.
Right. It's like, well, you kind of have like, I don't know. And that's where a lot of the imposter syndrome comes from, because you're just like, man, if the wind would have blown a different way on this day, I could have been, I was wrong, man. This tequila got me getting some rap, but you could have been, your trajectory could have been completely different. I don't view myself as like that I'm inherently entitled to this or like, and I hesitate to say like I didn't earn it, because I think as much as there's luck, there is certainly preparation. You got to be prepared to be lucky, right? You got to be prepared to be a recipient of luck. But I think the major takeaway is just that, when you talk about why you give back, it's opportunity is not equally cast upon us all. And to the extent that you are a recipient and a beneficiary of opportunity, if you can pay it forward by creating more opportunities for other people, then that is in my eyes kind of like retroactively deserving the luck that I got.
I agree. And it's funny, I was just talking to my attorney, uncle, whatever, today, like, just to kind of, and we were talking and he said something to me and I was like, it's so funny you say that, because I can literally pinpoint like to a T. Every time I give something to someone, I get it right back. And and I don't mean 10-fold, it might be 1,000-fold. Yeah. 10,000.
If you want to give me some money right now,
just to get it back.
I am happy. I am happy for you to be the conduit for your blessing, my friend. But yeah, man, this was dope. And yeah, I mean, we'll definitely do more of this with better video production. Right now, we just rigged up
we just want to try it out.
We just wanted to try it out, and hopefully
send to some folks.
Yeah, hopefully this the recording, the audio is synced. I will maybe get some editing done, but I can't wait to have more conversations. And really, what I think it's about is, for me, is like the view of entrepreneurship, especially for Black people, is it looks so polished, where people sort of just see the end result and it's like they're following a script. And I want people to know, it's like, look, we're regular dudes, man. Like we come from the Southside of Chicago. We're motivated by the same things that other people are motivated by. We both have social anxiety. We're not some mythical unicorn.
That's a big deal too. When I go out, like when we go out, like all of us, like a group of people, and I would be so quiet. Like, why are you so quiet? I'm like, I don't know how to function around people I don't know.
That's interesting, because we've never like been to the club, but I always assume you'd be like you'd be the dude, you'd be like my wingman.
No,
I always assume that. Man, so interesting. So we both just be there, just like quiet.
Well, they'll come to us, right?
Hopefully, I mean, they might come to you.
Nah, they'll come to us because we're gonna be the ones that's chilling.
Right. You'd be like, "Girl, I work in healthcare. What you talking about?"
No, we'll get them whatever they want. That's how it works now.
That's how it works.
Yeah, well, I'm not talking.
I've been out the game for a long time, so I'm out the game. I'm a coach. I'm a coach.
Oh, God.
So, I'm married with 2 kids, man. I'm trying to get them to college so I could get my groove back. You know what I'm saying?
Out the house.
Out the house, man. I'm just trying to live in peace, man. You know, I got young kids, but this has been great, man. So we about to drink the rest of this tequila.
Yeah.
Eat some food.
It's outside.
Yeah, man. That.
See how it goes.
Yeah.
To the first episode.
All right, bet.